Director of Californians Together. We are grateful to our partners for today's session, both the National Resource Center for Asian Languages at Cal State Fullerton and the Center for Equity for English Learners at Loyola Marymount. Today, we put the spotlight on Asian languages, dual language learning and teaching, TK through 6th grade. We know that being a dual language educator is challenging in itself, even when we are face-to-face with our children. Distance learning has increased the demands of our teachers, schools, districts, students, and their parents. Issues of language allocation, lack of resources and apps in the target language, providing opportunities for student collaboration, and opportunities to produce and practice language, as well as the lack of access to devices and internet, all need to be addressed. Today, we have a special opportunity to hear from teachers from 3 school districts, Westminster, Anaheim Elementary, and Walnut Valley, working in 3 different languages, Korean, Vietnamese, and Mandarin. This is your opportunity to connect with other dual language educators, share promising practices, as well as surface challenges that you're facing addressing distance learning with emergent bilingual students. We will be listening to you and planning to continue advocacy efforts during this crisis, and most importantly, to advocate for what we hope will be a wonderful beginning of the school year. Before we get started, we have 2 very important short poll questions we want to invite each of you to answer so we can get to know who is part of our community today. You'll be answering the questions by copying the link in the chat room for the poll. So if you can see, if all of you click on the chat, you'll see a link. If you can copy that link and put that into your browser, into the browser, Ed? Into the browser, then you'll see the first question. The first question is, what is your current role in working with students in schools? So what is your role? If all of you go to that link and then click on the answer, then we'll see who's with us today. We can already see many of you answering. So we have wonderful teachers from different language programs, an elementary principal, a graduate student who's studying dual language learning, serving Asian language students, county administrator. So Ed, does this summarize, or this is just we get to see everybody?
This is everyone, it's just scrolling through.
Okay. So we see there's a couple of languages for which are not represented on our panel, but we're hoping that what we share with you gives you ideas about how you can approach the work with programs that we saw for Japanese was one of those. So we're hoping that you can make the connection that way. We were represented from across the state, which is just terrific. Ed, do you want to go to the second one? What do you think?
Yep.
So here's a word cloud of all the languages that are being offered in our school districts that you are participating in. And you can see so many different languages that are being offered in our school districts: Armenian, Korean, Italian, Khmer, Vietnamese, sign language, Mandarin, and German.
One thing about this word cloud is that the more often the word occurs, the bigger the text. So if we can see like smaller text means it's only offered in a few schools, not as many schools as the larger text like Spanish, Korean, Vietnamese.
So you can see the languages for whom we have quite a few programs across our state. So we will be focusing on instruction today in languages other than English, but we did want to take a minute just to remind you about the legal requirements for also making sure that all English learners receive English language development. This is specifically, this was specifically created by the California Department of Education, and you can see that all students, even through distance learning, are required to receive English language development, designated and integrated English language development, although how that is offered and when is really flexible and to be determined by you and your school and your district, and that LEAs really have to be able to see how students are making progress in their English language proficiency, and that there is no minimum amount of minutes required for English language development, but it is a required course of study for English learners. These are the questions that we'd like you to talk about in your breakout rooms, talk a little, addressing your dual language learning, what you're doing through distance learning, how you're able to ensure that the partner language other than English is being used through distance learning, and what we're hoping that you'll be getting and be learning from our panel presentations, and of course, any questions that you might have. So I think we're ready, Ed, to go out to the breakout rooms now. Now it's really my pleasure to introduce our panel. And as I said to you, we have 4 wonderful teachers that you're going to hear from. But what I'd like to introduce is Dr. Natalie Tran, who is the Director of the National Resource Center for Asian Languages. She's also the Chair of Secondary Education at Cal State Fullerton. The center started in 2014, and it really is to increase the capacity of teachers who are teaching in Chinese, in Hmong, in Khmer, in Vietnamese, and Korean. And so there are hundreds of teachers that Natalie has been responsible for supporting through their credentialing program as well as professional development. And it's really my pleasure to be able to introduce Dr. Natalie Tran, who will be introducing our teachers today. Natalie, take it away.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Shelley, for the introduction. The National Resource Center for Asian Languages, we have the honor to be collaborating with Californians Together to participate in today's webinar, and I have the privilege of introducing our excellent panel of speakers this afternoon. They are teachers teaching Vietnamese, Korean, Mandarin, dual language immersion programs, and who will be sharing their strategies for supporting distance learning. So with that, our first presenter is Thuy Tran. So Thuy is currently a first grade Vietnamese dual immersion teacher at DeMille Elementary in Westminster School District. So Thuy has been assisting the Vietnamese dual programs for the past 5 years since the inception of the program in the district. She has taught in the program itself for 3 years. And just for those of you who are not familiar, Westminster School District was the first district in the state to offer its Vietnamese dual language program. So please join me in welcoming Thuy Tran. So our first presenter then is Song Kim, and Seong is a Korean dual language immersion teacher in kindergarten at Thomas Jefferson Elementary in Anaheim Elementary School District. So just a little bit about herself. She has 2 beautiful children, Azariah, who is 4 years old, and Amelia, who is 2 years old. And in addition to that, she has 24 beautiful students this year in her kindergarten class.
So hello, I was relieved that I wasn't the first presenter, but I guess I'm the first one to go. So my name is Song Kim. I teach Korean dual language immersion at Thomas Jefferson Elementary School in Anaheim Elementary School District. it is our very first Korean dual language immersion program in Orange County. Our KDLI language program is doing 80-20 language model. And so for 80% of the day, I teach instruction in Korean and 20% of the day in English. And I teach in Korean, students learn phonics, reading, writing, Korean language development, math, PE, and art in Korean. And students learn ELD, social studies, science, what else? Music and social emotional learning in English. I have 24 beautiful students. As Natalie introduced, I have 10 heritage students. So when they entered kindergarten, three of my students were fluent in Korean. 5 came with some Korean, and 2 students came with some Korean exposure. And I had 14 non-heritage Korean students. So as you can see, I had a very diverse group this year. I also have great parent involvement and support this year. So my parents really trust in the program, and they want to provide support in any ways possible. And I also have great district support. So before we launched our distance learning program, our DLI language coordinator, Magali, curriculum specialist, and curriculum and instructional coordinator, our principal, Dr. Song, and we had a meeting, and they offered help and asked me, do you need to create videos, whatever you need. So even though it was a lot to begin launching KDLI distance learning, I felt very supported before we started everything. So for distance learning, my main goal for distance learning KDLI were helping students retain skills and the language and providing engaging assignments. So students by providing engaging assignments, students are motivated to log in and work on their assignments. So I am using Seesaw for remote learning platform. I'm using Seesaw for student and parents communication and student assignments. And Seesaw has great video and audio capability. So these are the list of daily and weekly assignments, and I will go over each category in detail. So my very first daily post is morning message, and you can see me wearing this silly t-shirts and hats. Last Friday, I was wearing unicorn costume. It is in morning greeting, I highlight daily assignments or special activity, or sometimes it's just a short greeting, but I upload daily message every day. It is a short video, but students, they love checking out my daily greeting and post their response with greetings like, good morning, Mrs. Kim, have a great day, or I love you in Korean. And even though I don't have to force them to respond in Korean, because they see me modeling and speaking Korean, they love to respond in Korean. And it's a great way to still bond with my students and let them know that I'm still there for them. So next slide, next assignment is morning routine. It has calendar, letter sound, review, phonics, including blending and segmenting, and practicing writing and saying vocabulary words from KLD videos and number review. Next one is reading. We have read aloud and independent reading. These assignments are differentiated. So with the same read aloud assignments, depending on their language levels, some students respond in much simpler response with much more support from me. Whereas more advanced students, they perform more complicated tasks independently. The next one is math. So to teach new standards that weren't taught before, I provide 3 lessons on one new concept or new standard. So we have been learning about 2-dimensional shapes lately. And so for the first day, I used the textbook slides to explain and teach the keywords in Korean. And next day, I had my students explore finding 2-dimensional shapes around their house. And students, they took pictures and they posted their pictures and they shared about the shape they found in Korean. The third day, we practiced identifying shapes by sorting different shapes into 2 categories. And then other 2 days, Monday and Friday, we continue our counting collections from CGI. And we are now transitioning from counting a set of counting collections to solving a real life problems using counting collection sets. And for PE, I know there are a lot of teachers out there who are using Go Noodles for PE. For us, I wanted for my students to have something similar. So before our distance learning started, our curriculum specialist, Andy, and I worked together to create a list of activity break videos. So it came really handy, not knowing that this would happen, but it really came out handy. So I pushed out these activity break videos that had some Korean cultures and Korean traditional songs like arirang or taekwondo moves, along with the kid-friendly songs like Turita or Pirates videos that students are familiar with. Next one is KDLI video assignments. I'm not sure if you can show this video. This is actually YouTube link. Can you try?
안녕하세요 학생 여러분. 사과를 시작합시다. 이번 과에서는 사계절에 대해서 이야기할 거예요. 근데 궁금한 게 있는데요.
So our district has developed KLD videos, Korean language development videos, that aligned with our benchmark curriculum. And what's great about this video is that the instructor in the video is non-Korean person. So our students, they find it very fascinating that non-Korean person is actually fluent in Korean and is teaching them the language. So I use these videos to create vocab assignments embedded in the calendar activity. Okay, and independent online tasks. So in addition to my directed lessons, our students work on Rosetta Stone ST Math. ST Math is personalized math program based on grade level Common Core standards. And what's great about the program is that it does not involve language. So students can learn math concepts without feeling pressure to understand the directions in Korean. How am I doing with the time?
I think like maybe 1 or 2 more minutes.
Okay, got it. These assignment that you guys are seeing is our from School Spirit Week and kindergarten special assignments. So even though our KDLI students are learning in Korean, it does not stop us from doing events and activities together as a kinder team. Okay, and I push out art, music, and library once a week. And actually, we'll move on then. So the video, YouTube video, art YouTube video is created by our Korean instructional aide, Miss An, and she creates art video and once a week. And our students, it is for our student, it's a fun and engaging way for them to practice their listening skill and make art without requiring much material. Last slide. Thank you. So I use Seesaw for parents communication on daily basis. And what's great about Seesaw is that it's secure, and I also when we communicate, I get a copy, school email copy. So if I miss any messages on Seesaw, then I get to check on school email as well. So that's about it. Thank you for listening.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tran. I teach, just wanted to remind everyone, I teach first grade. Just like Ms. Song, it's very difficult to teach distance learning when they're in primary grades. First and foremost, like Vietnamese is a newer language program. There aren't any online resources for Vietnamese language learning. So most of my materials I create myself with my Vietnamese partners that we share with each other, but also with my English partner. So for the most part, having a great partner, we are flexible with one another, and we discuss decisions on assignments for the benefit of our parents and students, whatever is convenient for them. So I wouldn't go to new online resources or online avenues because it's not easy for our parents to navigate, especially our school is a Title I school. So we discussed on my English partner, we mirror each other's work as much as possible. We both work on Google Classroom and on Google Slides. And we try to make everything, our actual assignments in Google Slides, as similar as possible. So for teaching Vietnamese and the Vietnamese language for distance learning, there are a few prerequisites: knowing how to type using the Vietnamese keyboard and knowing how to navigate to Google Classroom. Thankfully, before distance learning started, I already taught my students how to use the Vietnamese keyboard and to go to Google Classroom. But just as a refresher for their parents who are helping their children at home, I created tech videos, guides for parents so that they can learn themselves how to show their child to use Google Classroom, especially when they're not used to using their personal devices at home. Our students in our district use a Chromebook, and sometimes using an Apple Mac computer or a different PC. It's different for the children. And I show them also how to download the Vietnamese keyboard as well. And technology I use for distance learning is Class Dojo. Our whole school uses Class Dojo for parent communication. But in the beginning of distance learning, I used it also to post my assignments. But now I use it to post weekly assignment overviews. And I'll explain why later. And also, because my students are in first grade, not everything is online. They have paper assignments. They work off their Trung tâm Văn hóa Việt Nam workbook from the Vietnamese community. And I have them writing their assignments out because it's a lot easier for them to write in Vietnamese with all the accent marks than for them to type. So I want them to have both skills when they do come back. So I use Class Dojo for their parents to take pictures and give virtual submissions through Class Dojo, but parents can also email me as well. I use Google Classroom to post my weekly assignments on there. And I also post if parents need a review, technology guides, and I also post supplemental materials like ABC songs or the sounds, the ABCs, or sight word lists that I read to my students are also on there. Screencastify, I use, I will talk about in a later slide, as well as Zoom meetings, but I use Google Slides to put all my weekly assignments on one forum so that my kids don't have to click on to move to another window so many times. Everything that they need to learn is just on Google Slides. They don't need to go on any other website. They just stay on Google Slides. Everything is there for them for the whole week. So when we're teaching a second language, you usually want to make sure that we touch base on the 4 different domains. So listening, speaking, reading, and writing. With distance learning, I use Loom or Screencastify for the listening domain. Phonics blending is one I record myself blending the words with my students, and then I read stories to them as well, or I do daily fix it and dictation, and that's for the listening domain. I thought I gave access. I guess you won't be. Are you able to? No, not that one. I guess the one on the right, you can watch.
Cô chào các em.
Sorry for my voice.
Sau đây, đây là hình của phần thứ 2 của đọc câu chính tả của tuần này.
So you can stop it now.
Câu là...
So I use pictures as well as my voice. What this video is dictation. So they're supposed to listen to what I'm saying and be able to write a sentence, the sentence that I'm saying. And that's the assignment. And this is all, once again, in Google Slides. Next domain is speaking. I use our Zoom meetings or weekly Zoom meetings for the speaking domain. The way I actually have 4 Zoom groups, and I group them by their levels. What I use to group my students is by their assessment results, which is their DIBELS, sounds per minute, words per minute from fluency, and then what sight word list they're on. And so if they mastered a certain level based on those 3 assessment results, that's how I group them for my Zoom meetings. And in each Zoom meeting, they're able to speak as a group, read aloud, read independently, ask any questions about assignments, and I go through the process of helping and supporting them that way. And that's how they have their opportunity to speak. And then next is the reading domain, which I use with Google Slides specifically. I screencastify reading the books to my students, as well as posting the whole book page by page for my students to read on Google Slides, which makes it very convenient for them to read along with me. So they can just play the video and then scroll along below to read the story with me. And eventually throughout the week, then they can read it independently on their own. And then the reading domain, I also use Google Slides. All of these assignments are usually pertaining to one phonics blend and also one story of the week. So my writing topics are usually based on the story of the week and paralleling it to their own life. And that makes it easier for them to connect to it, but also it allows for engagement as well because they're talking about themselves. I use visuals that I've translated, and my partner and I use this hamburger model, the top bun, and then all the details in the middle, or the tomato, the lettuce, the cheese, the meat, and then the closing sentence is the bottom button. And they are able to brainstorm with me during our Zoom meetings for their writing, and then they independently write on their own about certain topics. And then once they're finished with their brainstorming on the flea map, they write their paragraphs. Low groups, they write about one topic. Like for this example, actually, they're supposed to write about their favorite meal and what's in their favorite, what the details of their favorite meal. The low group, I would have them talk about 3 different foods as their details. And then the middle group would be food and people that they thought of in their memory of their favorite meal. And the high group would talk about food, people, and place and time. If their favorite meal is at breakfast or at lunch or dinner, or if it's at home or is at a specific restaurant. So that's how I differentiate instruction for writing. And then next is what I kind of segued into already, differentiating instruction. So how I differentiate instruction is with visuals, word banks, and the audio option for comprehension questions. Visuals is a lot of pictures, and I've translated this picture here is character traits. I translated that with my fellow colleagues in our program. And also I embed pictures with their comprehension questions for their dictation or for their story of the week. And I give them an audio option if they choose to play my Loom, my Screencastify video. I read the questions to them as also an option they can choose. And I'm actually in the video so they can read my lips if they need to, because I do, in our program, a quarter of our students are non-heritage. Actually, no, half of our students are non-heritage. A quarter of that is Vietnamese American students, students that they don't speak Vietnamese at home, but then the last quarter is non-Vietnamese students. They're Latin or they're Caucasian students in our program. So half of our students aren't, so they might need the audio option for comprehension questions because they hear me speak a lot, but they not be able to read what the question is. And word banks, for the same reason, are the same supports. So one of the slides that I'm showing here is I'm asking them to make bigger, better sentences, and with the simple sentences that I've given them, and I've given them a word bank that they can choose from to make bigger, better sentences. They don't necessarily have to use the words in the word bank, but they're there as options to help them to make bigger, better sentences. And lastly, for differentiating and instruction, providing a teacher sample. Right here, I have a sample of a flea map. Obviously, I don't expect my students to create all of that on that flea map. I give them more than what they need just to give them an idea to narrow down their own ideas about their personal experiences that they can describe to me. And I don't expect them to find pictures either, but some students do choose to provide me with pictures within their flea map as well. And I already spoke about this, but level 1 groups during Zoom meetings as one of my ways of differentiating instructions. And lastly, for engaging student learning, I go through all of my students' work on the Google Slides, and it's very also convenient for me in the way that I see all of their work all at once. So it gives me an opportunity to read through and write comments for them. I can comment each Google Slide page, also comment on the side about their overall work. And here I show an example of my students' overall work. I loved her story, so I just wrote that, "Thank you for telling me about your life. I really appreciate it." And then within my videos that I screencastify, like my blending videos, I would ask them within those videos, "So now you try to blend it." And I'd actually wait in the video for them to blend it. And then I'd always say, "Oh, that sounds great. That's a great job. I love that," or something like that. So that was another way that I engage student learning. And the last one on this slide is student shares after Zoom instruction. So after my Zoom instruction, which is about 30 minutes, the students have their free time. So students who have participated, they know that they've participated in the Zoom meeting and during Zoom instruction, whether it's reading or blending or asking questions, they have priority to share about their week with their group. So that engages student learning as well. They can share about their favorite toy, their teddy bear. Like today, one of the boys shared about their what's it called? I forgot actually, sorry. One of the girls shared about her stuffed animal, a cat, and then one of the boys asked him if it was actually a cat or a dog. So that was funny. So that's for engaging student learning. And then lastly, what I have done is for engaging student learning is weekly shout out posts on Class Dojo. So I said, oh, these students are doing a wonderful job. They finished their work and they turned it in to me this week. And I told the kids that to motivate them, that if you do all of your work this month, I'm going to send you a postcard. And there's a lot of pictures that I've taken throughout the school year that I haven't been able to give out to the kids. So I thought I'd make these pictures into postcards. And so I wrote on each one of them. I have 45 kids, 2 classes split with my English partner. So I think about 37 students had been completing their work for the past month. So I sent them postcards and I said to him, I wrote on Class Dojo that keep up, you're doing a great job, keep up the great work. If you finish throughout the year, I will send you another postcard at the end of the year. So that's how I engage student learning. My partner, she does Zoom lunches with the kids. But I was thinking 45 kids doing Zoom lunches together sounds like not a great idea. But I'm like, more power to you. But I'm gonna stick with the postcards. So that's the end of my slideshow and my presentation. Thank you for sharing your ideas, and thank you for allowing me to share mine.
Hey, Natalie, I think you're unmuted. You can introduce our teachers from Walnut Valley.
Great. Thank you, Tweety. Again, if you have questions, please feel free to post them in the chat area, and we'll get them to them at the end of our presentations. So our next presenter are 2 teachers from Walnut Elementary. Our first presenter is Kristen Young. She's a teacher at Walnut Elementary. Other than being a classroom teacher, she also serves as the dual language immersion specialist. So she supports teachers and students in Walnut Valley Unified School District and has been a dual language teacher for 8 years. For the past 4 years, she has collaborated with Loyola Marymount University as instructional lead for the Star Talk student program. And her partner is Sylvia Chan, is also a 4th grade Mandarin dual immersion teacher at Walnut Valley School District. Interesting fact about Sylvia, she was born and raised in Taiwan, and so also experienced a role of an English learner for many years prior to coming to the US, where she was enrolled in the middle of her 6th grade year. So this personal experience has ignited her passion in the areas of language acquisition and biliteracy.
Well, thank you, Natalie. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kristen Wong. I am humble and happy to be here to connect with everyone and learn alongside with you. Like Natalie said, I've been in the dual language program for the last 8 years, and the last 2 years, I am not in a dual language classroom. I am there to support the the Mandarin teachers as well as our students. A little bit about Walnut Elementary. It is in the Walnut Valley Unified School District. We have a 50-50 two-way dual immersion program. Our students range from fluent speakers to non-speaker at all, but even some of our fluent speakers are not really reading and writing, and so they benefit a lot from our program. Our program started in January 2011, and our first cohort actually will be attending high school in August. Like all the other dual language programs, our goal is for our students to be biliterate and bicultural. We do have 7 Mandarin teachers at our school teaching 50% of the time in one class and then 50% on the other class. So with school closure, we are saddened and that we couldn't finish the school year with them, but our school and our teachers are very resilient. We adapt, we innovate, and overcome any obstacles. Our program is successful because of our fantastic teachers who always go above and beyond. So while it is challenging to balance academic and emotional needs of our students, thank you. So we know that as an educator, we all know that if the students' needs are not being met, their basic needs, their child is not learning to his or her full potential. And we know that because we are in the education, we know that we always have to apply the Maslow theory of a hierarchy of needs. So even in the best of time, kids crave that structure and that order. But especially during this time of uncertainty, sticking to routine is the best. And it can help students alleviate anxiety and worries. So we try to keep our classroom routine even when we're teaching remotely. Many teachers are using different platforms to reach out to our students, but all of our Mandarin teachers have been collaborating and sharing activities with one another. Every teacher knows their students best and that they integrate activities and assignments to meet the needs of the students and to engage them. One of the check-ins that we do would be the mood meter. We continue that online, even though we're not in our classroom. This is the best way to gauge our students' emotion and know how to support them. We check in with them often. We continue to address their needs, and if there's something that we know that they're not at the green zone, they're not at the blue zone, then we need to integrate activities that support them emotionally so that they can continue that learning. To deepen that connectedness, we do different activities during the check-in. So scavenger hunt, Pictionary, drawing, singing. Some of us send that flat teachers home to our students so the students feel connected with us and that we're with them all the time. During these online virtual sessions, we invite guest teachers. It could be from our special teacher, PE, art, other Mandarin teachers, and counselors to the meeting so that the students still feel connected with everybody in school other than just their classroom teachers. And then we do something fun like virtual lunch. So students have a feeling that they're still they could still have lunch with their friends and they are free to chat and it's not academically related. So in terms of academic, we are still keeping that same routine. We do have a weekly schedule that we adhere to, and we send that to the parents and the families so they can plan their child's work accordingly. My colleague Sylvia will talk more about the synchronous and asynchronous sessions in detail. So although the students are learning remotely, we do hold high expectations and provide that scaffolding to support students that are not from a heritage speaking family. We pull small groups and implement guided language acquisition development, or well known as GLAD strategies, to provide that authentic learning experience. And most importantly, we want to make sure that our students have the access to content and the language to support them in all areas, all four modes of communications. So in a distant learning environment, it is hard to contain that 90% target language goal. We all want to do that, but they're not in our classroom, and it's very hard to control that. So teachers use multiple platforms to ensure students are learning and practicing that four modes of communications: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. We want to make sure that our virtual environment is print rich. So if you go into a website, or if you're in a virtual learning environment, you could see all the authentic materials, the language is there. We want them to feel like there's a place that they can interact with each other using the target language. I think that's really important to continue that target language goal. So at this time, I like to invite Sylvia Chan to talk more details of how all these look like in her classroom. She has worked tirelessly to develop the distant learning curriculum, and she's one of those teachers that whether she's in the classroom or out of the classroom, she's constantly have ideas to keep her student engaged. So here is Miss Sylvia Chan.
Thank you, Kristen. Kristen is actually my mentor, so I have her to thank for all this. It's really great to see everyone's distance learning, and I enjoy seeing the primary lower grades because I teach upper grade. So I'm learning a lot just by listening to Mrs. Kim and Ms. Tran earlier. The first thing I want to share is our distance learning daily agenda. So as you'll see on the right-hand side, that's a sample of our schedule for last week. We provided time for them to follow because some students crave that structure. So it goes by math, and then my partner and I, we switch off each day. So my partner has a live Zoom session on Monday. I teach Tuesday, she does Wednesday, I do Thursday, and then we teach together on Friday for like a fun 30-minute check-in. And you'll see on the very bottom, we'll have English language arts and also Mandarin language arts. For each day, I also focus on the four modes of communication. We focus on reading and vocabulary words on Monday, grammar structure on Tuesday, exercise on Wednesday, and then some writing exercises on Thursday. And our textbook is Let's Learn Chinese, so it follows that structure in the textbook, so students are very familiar with that. The changes that we have are definitely less time, so there's a decrease of work, but there are more integration. And for me as a Mandarin teacher, my partner and I split up the subjects as me for Mandarin, science, and half of math, and she does English, social studies, and half of math. So for Mandarin curriculum, it was a very hard decision for me because I've been doing Google Classroom my entire school year. But after our students unfortunately did not get the chance to grab their textbooks from our school, so we had to find a way that they can access PDFs, and we tried that with Google Classroom, and the feedback that we got for the first week wasn't ideal. So I had to make a hard decision to switch completely to Seesaw, and it's been really great, and I love this platform because it allows you to annotate, to record, like Mrs. Kim was saying earlier. And Ed, if you can play a little bit of that clip. 古代中国有四大法 So that's just a short clip of how my students, I uploaded the PDF. They have 2 to 3 pages per day, and that task they just had to read and also highlight the vocabulary words. So that's their first task for Monday. And on the bottom, oh, sorry, that was just me with my hand gesture. Sorry. So go back, for the bottom part, it's, I'm a big Units of Study fan, so we always talk about mentor text. And that's actually a text from Diary of a Wimpy Kid in Chinese. So for us, we're focusing on journal writing because I want them to document this special time in life. So we are looking into how to write diaries, and one of the ways that they love to read, one of the funnest books they like to read is Diary of the Wimpy Kid. And it is a little bit hard for them to read on their own. So for this, I walked through it with them during our Zoom class. When they're doing independent reading, it will be a little easier text for them. And on the right side, you'll see we use iChinese, and I created a worksheet on my own just to do a supplement check-in to see what books they read, and also like a little reading reflection. Next slide. As I mentioned earlier, personal connection and journaling is what I'm focusing on during distance learning. Before this, we were working with units of study, and we're in the middle of informational text, but all our content was at school. So I felt like it was just, we needed a fresh start. So I just turned into, there's a really great YouTube teacher, her name is Gwen, and she teaches us how to do journal writing. And I think that's just such a personal topic that everybody can relate to. And it is also very good for them to look back on and see how they feel during this time. So if you'll see on the left side, that COVID-19, I have a actual sample right here. So it just so happens our theme for the textbook is paper. So I was thinking of ways to integrate paper as well as journal writing. So we use the paper to make into a paper book, and I challenged them to write about COVID-19, how it affected their life, and also use the vocabulary words that are in that lesson. So if you'll see on the very bottom, it's very tiny, but he boxed the vocabulary words that are right there. Thank you, Ed. So he boxed the vocabulary words that he used from the textbook, but it's actually related to his personal life. So that's an integration of textbook and what's happening in his life. For the middle part, I saw some questions about how to motivate families. This is a segment of interviewing family members. So not only did they write about how they feel during this time, I think it is also important for them to learn about how other people in their lives are feeling during this pandemic. So they got the chance to interview, and what's great about Seesaw is you can either type, you can draw, and this student of mine, oops. That looks like a fun game. But this student of mine on the bottom, she drew out this picture herself on her tablet. So that's the great thing about technology, is you expand all these opportunities for them to showcase their work. And for the right side is them comparing their past and current state of their life. So this, I told them the importance of taking pictures and capturing their moment. So this girl, she took a picture of her current desk, showing how she is learning during distance learning. Next slide. And as we've seen with the two previous teachers too, there are so many visuals, because visual is the key to language learning. And I am a big fan of GLAD. If you haven't checked out GLAD, it's basically drawing and then language acquisition. So for the left side, we're teaching about the 7 continents. And after we teach the 7 continents, it is important to do the 10-2. If you haven't heard of it, it's basically you teach for a few seconds and give them time to process the information so you don't lose their attention. So for me, after I teach a lesson of the world continents, I have them go to my Padlet, which is the second picture on the left side. They will talk about what they think of the continent Africa. What do they think of? So they can generate their ideas there to brainstorm for the whole class. So we go over as a whole class, and afterwards they create their own map. On the very bottom, you'll see a student sample. They just have to draw out the world map and draw 3 things that they can think of related to that continent. And for the middle, it's still journaling. And as Krista mentioned earlier, we send out the flat teacher. So every student receive a flat Miss Chen from me. This is the standard Miss Chen. But if they're doing really well, they get these special editions Miss Chen. And I I usually just, if they have a favorite animal, I just send a Bitmoji with that favorite animal and they get really excited. And for the really good ones, I send them a personalized bookmark. And this is Minecraft. I just search for an image online and type their name. And these are all very cheap and easy to do. You can fit it in a standard envelope and it's just a forever stamp and it'll do. And for the very last one, I do have students who do not have exposures to Mandarin outside of class. So I try to create more videos for them to watch just for fun. So I've been creating these draw and learn Chinese videos that go over key vocabulary words. Before I was doing animals, now I'm doing a series for occupations. So Ed, if you can play a little bit of that.
呢，他们都会戴硬硬的头盔。
So that's just a small snippet of whatever I draw, I'll go over a key vocabulary. That's basically the concept of GLAD. And I tie that into something that students might enjoy a little bit more, animals and occupations, and hopefully I'll do more in the future. And Kristen, I'll turn it back to you.
And then to piggyback on Sylvia's journaling, I think that's awesome for our students to know that they are making history right now and they are actually creating primary source of information by journaling. So I encourage all the students to do that so they can look back 30 years from now to see what they're going through and they can explain to other people what they're going through. And so to encourage connectedness, like I said earlier, the most successful strategy in any school is the collaboration of the teachers, sharing your strategy, working with each other, and supporting each other. This video shows our students our connectedness and motivate them, telling them that we love them, we miss them, we believe in them. So Ed, if you want to play a snippet of it.
Oh, no.
Oh, he's got to play the whole thing. This is our 5th grade teacher, the first one. Our 1st grade teacher, our high school teacher, 5th grade teacher again. So and the other high school teacher. This is our Sylvia Tran, 2nd grade Mandarin teacher. Our middle school Mandarin teacher.
Okay, you can stop now.
And that's our 3rd grade teacher, the last one.
We basically sang a song together to show the kids.
And Miss Chen, Sylvia Chen, put this video together. She coordinated and put them together. So, well, thank you, everyone. It really is a pleasure being here, sharing our strategies with you and learning alongside with you. Back to Shelley.
Yes. First of all, how about everybody gives them a big round of applause, thumbs up. What a wonderful job from our teachers. There are just so many wonderful connections they made with their students, the diversity of their work, the going far beyond what most of us are able to do in terms of making sure that the materials were available in the different languages that they were doing. I mean, all of them demonstrated so many wonderful options and the potential that's available to us, even in this period of time. So Natalie and all of the teachers, we want to thank you so much for all the work that went into this and for the time that you spent in developing the programs. Dr. Tran and our 4 teachers from these 3 special district programs have inspired us to see the potential for continuing to develop bilingualism and biliteracy in many Asian language spoken by our students. We're grateful for their time and planning that it took to be with us today. So I'm looking at the time. We have time for just a few questions. I think there was a question about the journaling video that you talked about, Sylvia, in terms of maybe you can put that in the chat room so that people could find their way to it if they are interested in doing the journaling so that they could be able to watch it like you did. You might want to say a little bit more about that.
Okay, I will definitely, her name is Gwen Bloomberg, and I will drop just the link to her video to the chat right here. Let's see. Let me see right here. And it's very simple, and it's easy because most Asian languages teachers, we have to translate, and just her way of using sticky notes and doing main ideas, it was just really easy.
I have a sample.
Oh yes. So that's the English version, and I have a book that I just put all my Chinese versions in here. But so far I haven't made my videos public, so unfortunately, maybe in the future I'll make some Chinese versions of these.
And Tui, there was a question about which program did you use for the translation of the posters?
Mostly I use an app called Translation Box, and it's pretty accurate as opposed to Google Translate. But mostly it's within my colleagues. We discuss these terms, even because Translation Box gives you options, but some of them are not actually that as accurate. And so we go through discussions, a lot of discussions amongst each other within our program with my kindergarten counterparts, fourth grade teachers and everything, and our ISS as well. And then we finalize the version that we would like to distribute amongst each other.
And then Sung Kim, they were asking, who is the man in the YouTube video, and where is it that they can have access to the videos?
So our district hired Jeremy. So I know him as a YouTuber, and he got contract with our district. So I am not sure. I'll find out if I can share videos, but that one I'm not sure yet. But
okay, well, I think you've seen so many resources and so many ideas in the chat room. So Ed, can you go to the next slide? So what we want to tell you is that what we will be doing, first of all, you'll be getting an email from us with the recording of the Zoom meeting today. You'll get the slides, you'll get a link to all the slides, and you'll get a summary of the resources that are in the chat room. All of that will be coming to you within the next couple of days. We do want to let you know about our two new upcoming Zooms. May 26th, we'll be having one on immigrant and refugee students and addressing newcomers. And then on June 2nd, we're very excited about doing one on DLACs and ELACs. There's many districts that are wondering whether they should be still having ELACs and DLACs. There are districts that are doing some incredible things through distance learning with their ELACs and DLACs, and so that'll be on June 2nd. We'd like you, if you didn't prior to this session, to complete the short survey that we have for you. We'll be using the results of it to really advocate for more support for teachers of English learners in the future through distance learning and through the reopening of schools. So please, please go to that survey. We're closing it tomorrow, so this is your last chance. The next slide, please. So we've done some of your questions. And what we want you to do now is that we are going to put in the chat room a place for you to go to. This is the last piece of interaction. And what we'd like you to do is go to this link and put in there a wish that you might have in 2 short words. What would the wish be for your colleagues, for your students, for your school, or for us? What would be one of your short wish that you would put in there, and that we're going to create a word cloud with that and also send that to you afterwards. So this will be up when we close. I'm just letting you know that when we close, it will be up. There's the link, right? There's the link for you to go to. And the link for the survey is in the chat room also. So with that, it's 5:27. We want you to go to that link that just showed up in the chat room to make the word cloud. And here we have thank you to you in Vietnamese, Korean, and Mandarin. If you have any more questions, please send them to Erica at californianstogether.org, and any future Zooms and all our previous meetings, all our previous Zooms and web and recordings, they're all on our website. So you can see any of the Zoom sessions maybe that you weren't able to. They're all posted with the slide decks and with our resources. So there's a wealth of information on our website. And there's our research page. And again, you can see we're anxious for all of you to fill out that survey, right? We'd love to have all of you do that. So what we just have to tell you is we so appreciate everybody spending an hour and a half with us late in the afternoon on 4 o'clock. It just is a testament to how necessary it is for us to connect, stay connected, share our resources, and just share our wishes with each other for a healthy, prosperous, and wonderful, wonderful days ahead for us and our students. So please go there and put your wishes in, and that's it. We thank you so much. I think the word cloud is going to start showing up for those of you who are going on. So we'll stay open for another 3, 4, 5 minutes for people to do that, and you'll be, here comes the word cloud. This is what we're hoping for. So as more people say relatively the same thing, you'll see the words will get louder. This is like an equal representation. It seems like all of these things have been equally addressed, but shortly you'll see some of the wishes will get bigger and bigger, which means more of you are wishing the same things. These are very good. Oh, there you go. So see, community building and engaging students are what a lot of people are talking about. Teacher collaboration. A lot of us are hoping for more teacher collaboration. There is a question for Sylvia or Kristen about the Mandarin, the link, or the Mandarin Seesaw class code.
Oh, let me see. Share the Mandarin Seesaw class code. I would have to check with my admin because we do have student information in there. Oh, okay. But I do share a lot of my teaching strategies on my Instagram, so maybe I can share that. And
I'm sure. Go ahead and share the Instagram. Okay. That would be great.
Because students, they interview their families, and then their faces are in there, so it's a little bit tricky. Yes. When sharing the Seesaw class.
But you know what's interesting about our wishes is that so much of it is about building community and building collaboration. Mm-hmm. At this time when we're isolated, it is not only important for our students to see us and to be able to talk to each other like in a virtual lunch or free time, but for teachers mm-hmm. to be able to collaborate and have that
yes,
support.
It's a very lonely environment when you're by yourself, not at school.
Right. And so this really tells us what we need to be about in the future, that any work that we do in the future, we really have to have this as a part of it. And we will take these messages to different meetings that we're in and different policymakers to hopefully really emphasize what teachers are telling us about the needs for themselves as well as their students, right? Oh my goodness, somebody wants a part 2. Okay, you guys. Natalie, we want to thank you also so much for helping to put this together.
Thank you so much. It's been such a great collaboration, and thank you everyone for this wonderful opportunity to share, you know, your best practices. This is really community building and teacher collaborating. So I concur with part 2. I think it would be amazing.
There's some of the people in the chat room I think we could call upon for part 2 who are having some really good ideas in the chat room. We could.
That's right.
Yeah, we would like to hear from more teachers.
So a couple more minutes, we'll stay on for 2 more minutes, and then we'll say goodbye to the rest of you, and really hope for a wonderful evening, hopefully feeling inspired and energized by what we shared and what we heard.